The engine hummed a low, steady note, a monotonous sound that matched the quiet rhythm of the late hour. It was 01:15 a.m. The city had mostly settled into its nocturnal silence, broken only by the occasional distant siren or the rattle of a garbage truck. Liam sat behind the wheel of his pickup truck, a utilitarian dark grey Ford that looked as rugged and unassuming as its owner. He was 35, an ex-Army Ranger medic, now working a rotation of construction and security jobs, anything that kept him busy and his mind off the quiet spaces. Tonight he was driving back from a 12-hour sight watch in the industrial zone, exhausted, his focus narrowed to the yellow lines flickering under the headlights. Liam appreciated the quiet. He had spent enough time in places where quiet meant danger. Now, quiet was just quiet. He had adapted to civilian life, but the training never truly left him. His eyes constantly processed the environment, the location of exits, the number of people on the street, the intent behind their movements. It wasn't paranoia, it was operational readiness. He was passing through a transition zone where small retail businesses gave way to residential streets. The lighting was poor here, relying on infrequent sodium lamps that cast an orange, sickly glow. That was when the anomaly occurred. It was fast, a flash of motion in his peripheral vision. A woman running. She wasn't jogging or sprinting for fitness. She was running in pure terror. Her stride was jerky, panicked, punctuated by desperate gasps. She wore a light-colored coat that billowed around her, making her look frantic and exposed against the dark backdrop of the buildings. She was holding one arm tight across her chest, clutching something, and her head was snapping repeatedly over her shoulder, checking her 6. She wasn't running to a destination. She was running from something. Liam instinctively took his foot off the gas. The truck drifted to a stop near the curb. He didn't have to debate the action. The training simply kicked in. A civilian in distress. He had seen enough genuine terror to recognize the real thing instantly. This was not a domestic argument or a common street crime. This was fear driven by pursuit. The narrator's voice, flat and immediate, cut through the quiet. He thought it was going to be just another ordinary night, another routine drive home. He was wrong. The moment he saw that woman fleeing, everything changed. Liam opened his truck door and stepped out. He moved slowly, deliberately, keeping his hands visible. He didn't want to startle her further. He kept his voice low and steady, the calming tone he used on trauma victims. "Ma'am, stop, it's all right, I'm not going to hurt you." The woman didn't register his presence at first. She stumbled onto the sidewalk, her legs giving out. She scrambled back up, fueled only by adrenaline, trying to keep moving. When she finally registered Liam, she didn't slow down. She veered toward him, her breathing ragged and shallow, tears streaming down her face. She collided with him, a small desperate weight clinging to the front of his jacket with surprising force. "Please," she choked out, her voice thin and high-pitched. "Don't leave me. They can't find me here." She was shaking violently, cold sweat mixing with the tears. Liam felt the tremor running through her body. He put one large, reassuring hand on her back, guiding her slightly behind the cover of the truck's open door. He maintained his visual scan of the street, checking the areas she had come from. "It's okay, take a breath," Liam instructed, his mind cataloguing her injuries. Minor scrapes on her knees, likely from the fall, but nothing immediately life-threatening. "Who is they? Are you hurt? Did somebody attack you?" She shook her head against his chest, her breath hitching painfully. "No, not yet. They will. They know I saw it. They know I have it." She pulled back slightly, her eyes wide and fixed on the street behind him. The look in her eyes wasn't just general fear, it was targeted, specific terror, as if she could sense the immediate, looming presence of her pursuers. She repeated the phrase, a mantra of desperation. "They're going to come back. They're going to come back for me." Liam saw something clenched tight in her right hand, hidden partially by the sleeve of her coat. It was small, metallic, glinting dully in the scant light. It looked like a flash drive or maybe a key card, clutched so tightly her knuckles were white. She held it against her palm as if it were the only thing keeping her alive. Liam knew this wasn't street theater. The level of physiological distress was too high to be faked. This woman was running from a clear, credible threat. He glanced at the truck. It was his property, his refuge. He could put her in the passenger seat and drive her to the nearest precinct. But something in her eyes, the complete lack of trust in institutions, made him hesitate. He made a quick operational decision. He couldn't leave her exposed on the street. He gently steered her to a deep doorway on the side of a closed laundromat, where the shadows were thick and the view of the street was limited. "We're going to get you out of the line of sight. Tell me what's going on." She sank down onto the concrete step, pulling her coat around her. She was struggling for control, fighting the terror to articulate the danger. Liam crouched down, maintaining eye contact. He saw the flicker of something beyond just fear in her eyes, a residual tension that looked like genuine, stubborn resolve. He saw determination buried under the panic. I was working late," she managed to whisper. "In the financial district. I'm a cleaner. 3rd shift." She paused, gathering her strength. "I saw them. In the executive parking garage. Down on level B4. Her voice dropped to a near inaudible sound. 2 men, wearing expensive suits. They weren't supposed to be there, and the trunk of the car was open. Liam leaned closer, filtering the facts from the distress. He kept his eyes on the street. The silence was becoming suspicious. Too long, too quiet. "What did you see in the trunk?" She squeezed her eyes shut, reliving the image. Blood. So much blood. And something wrapped in heavy plastic. They were arguing about what to do with it. They didn't see me. I ran. I just ran and ran. She held up the small metallic object she was clutching. It wasn't a flash drive. It was a key card. The kind with magnetic strip access. Highly generic, but tied to a location. "I found this by the car. I picked it up. Stupid, right? But I thought it might be evidence." Liam took the key card gently. It was cold, clean, and heavy. He looked at it for a moment. This wasn't a petty crime. This was an organized operation, likely involving disposal of a body, high-level corporate security, and the kind of cleanup that required expensive suits and underground parking garages. The stakes were suddenly very high. The silence of the street was abruptly violated. A set of headlights appeared far down the road, coming fast. They didn't slow down. They weren't using high beams, suggesting a deliberate effort to remain unobtrusive. But the speed was wrong. The intent was clear. They were hunting. The woman stiffened, her breath catching. "That's them," she whispered, her voice laced with certainty. They saw the truck. Liam didn't waste time on questions. He moved with the focused speed of a combat veteran. He knew he couldn't leave her here, and he couldn't fight a 2-ton vehicle in an open street. He grabbed her arm, his grip firm but non-damaging. "We're moving, now, into the vehicle. Stay low." He pulled her toward the truck. The approaching vehicle, a dark sedan, was close enough now for him to distinguish its shape. Unmarked, 4 doors, heavy build. It wasn't slowing. Liam opened the passenger side door, pushed the woman in, and ordered her to slide down below window level. He slammed the door shut. He didn't get back into the cab. He needed a distraction. He needed to buy seconds. He glanced at the laundromat's entrance. The lights were off. He grabbed a piece of loose brick from the curb. As the dark sedan roared past, slowing marginally as the occupants realized the woman wasn't visible, Liam threw the brick hard against the large glass window of the laundromat. The glass shattered with a deafening crash, showering the pavement with fragments. The unexpected sound and the confusion of seeing their target's vehicle parked next to a sudden loud crime scene gave the pursuers pause. The sedan sped up, then braked hard 50 yards down the road. They were confused. They were debating. Liam used the seconds. He vaulted back into the cab, slammed his door shut, and floored the accelerator. The truck tires squealed on the wet asphalt as he executed a quick U-turn, heading in the opposite direction from the sedan. He didn't look back. He drove hard and fast, cutting into a series of smaller side streets. He had made a choice. He was no longer just driving home. He was now an active participant in an unknown high-stakes game. The simple act of stopping had erased his normal life and replaced it with an operational directive. Protect the asset. Neutralize the threat. Find the truth. The stakes felt impossibly high, and he was completely alone. The woman, huddled low beside him, finally spoke with a terrifying clarity that cut through the engine noise. "Thank you," she said, her voice stronger now, the terror still present, but overlaid with a layer of steel. "They will kill me if they find me. And they will kill anyone who helps me." She took a deep breath, clutching the lapels of her coat. "But you have to know what I did. You have to know why they are hunting me like this. It's not just about the body they put in the trunk." Liam kept his eyes fixed on the road, weaving through the deserted streets. "Then tell me," he commanded, his voice tight. "Tell me everything. Fast." The woman looked at him, then down at the key card in his hand. She looked exhausted, broken yet utterly resolute. She spoke the words slowly, deliberately, her voice clear and strong despite the remaining tremor. "I was running because I risked everything to save him. The body they were disposing of. It was the man they framed. And I have the proof to get him out. But that's not the incredible part. The incredible part is who the framed man is." Liam felt the shock hit him, a cold wave of realization beneath the adrenaline. Framed? Proof? This wasn't just a murder cover-up. This was a system-level crime. The woman shifted slightly, her voice dropping to a low, powerful confession that stopped Liam's breath completely, despite his focus on the escape. "The man they killed, and the man they framed," she whispered. "They were trying to expose a secret about a military base overseas, a secret that would have ruined your old commanding officer, your former mentor." The truck swerved slightly as Liam processed the words. His mind flashed back to the familiar, trusted face of his old captain, the man who had pulled him out of the fire, the one he respected above all others, the one who had always preached integrity, the one he had called 6 months ago for a job reference. The realization landed with the force of an explosion. The stakes weren't just high anymore, they were personal. Liam drove through the city's dark veins with the predatory efficiency of a man who knew the territory intimately. He wasn't just escaping, he was using the city's infrastructure against his pursuers. He ran a series of tactical maneuvers honed by years of urban combat simulations, abrupt turns onto one-way streets, brief bursts of speed followed by immediate braking, using the shadows cast by large commercial buildings to break the visual lock. He was counting. The sedan was a few blocks behind, visible only as a faint sweep of light. But they were professionals. They anticipated his moves. He cut across a deserted municipal lot, drove briefly against traffic on a wide boulevard, and then plunged into the maze of Chinatown's service alleys, where the tight spaces and delivery trucks made sustained pursuit impossible. After 10 minutes of high-intensity driving, Liam pulled the truck into an abandoned, half-submerged parking garage beneath a condemned factory building near the river. The entrance was overgrown with ivy, barely noticeable. He killed the engine and the lights instantly. The sudden silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of dripping water and the woman's ragged breathing beside him. "Stay down. Don't move," he instructed, his voice low and firm. He spent 2 minutes listening, his ranger training kicking in. He tracked his heart rate, filtered the ambient noise, and waited for the sound of approaching tires or voices. Nothing. They were clear for now. He turned to the woman. She was trembling but controlled, holding herself together with an incredible effort of will. "We have maybe 40 minutes before they figure out the pattern," Liam said. "Tell me your name. Tell me everything you know about my former captain and why they killed that man." "My name is Sarah," she whispered. Her voice was strained, but the steel was back. "And they didn't just frame him. They destroyed his life for over a year before they killed him." She confirmed the identity of the body in the trunk, an investigative journalist named Marcus Rourke. Rourke was investigating a large-scale embezzlement scheme. It wasn't just money. It was military supply funds, millions of dollars intended for humanitarian aid and infrastructure rebuilds overseas, being siphoned into shell corporations. Liam felt a knot tighten in his gut. This was far worse than he imagined. "My captain," Liam ground out. "Arthur Hayes. What was his role?" Sarah looked at him, her eyes wide with sorrow. "He was the architect. Rourke had traced the money trail from the Department of Defense down to a foreign base where Hayes was the commanding officer. The funds were being washed through Hayes's direct authorization. He used his position, his rank, and his reputation for integrity as a cover. Rourke had a deep source, someone on Hayes's own staff who turned whistleblower. She pointed to the key card Liam held. "That card isn't for a bank vault. It's the access key to Rourke's secure digital archive, housed in a server facility in the financial district, the same building where I worked as a cleaner." He hid the physical proof there. High-resolution scans of the falsified transfer documents, voice recordings of Hayes ordering the cover-ups, and the names of the corporate partners who handled the laundering. Liam rubbed his face, taking a long, ragged breath. Captain Hayes, the man who taught him tactical ethics, the man who saved his life twice in Kandahar, was a traitor. The betrayal was a physical blow. The determination he had seen in Sarah, the drive that made her risk everything, now made complete horrifying sense. She wasn't just saving an innocent man's reputation. She was exposing a military hero as a criminal who funded his retirement with the blood of soldiers and the misery of civilians. "Why did you risk your life for Rourke?" Liam asked, needing to understand the connection. Sarah's face softened, a rare moment of tenderness breaking through the fear. "Rourke was investigating the death of my brother, a private contractor who worked logistics for Hayes's unit overseas. My brother had noticed the discrepancies. Hayes silenced him, classifying his death as a training accident. Rourke was the only one who believed me. I wasn't saving a stranger. I was saving the only chance my brother had at justice." The revelation landed on Liam with devastating force. The amazing part was not just the depth of the corruption, but the unbreakable personal bond that fueled Sarah's courage. She wasn't a victim. She was a combatant, fighting a war of proof and memory. Liam pulled a small, high-powered satellite phone from his center console, a secure, untraceable line he had kept since leaving the service. He knew he couldn't call the police. Hayes's reach was too wide, extending through corrupted contacts in the local government. He needed to contact someone outside the immediate sphere of influence, someone with federal jurisdiction and an uncompromised past. He typed a highly encrypted message to a former counterintelligence contact, now working in the DOJ, Department of Justice, back in D.C. He kept the message concise, utilizing a coded phrase: "Sierra Bravo is hot. Target, Spartan. Immediate priority." He knew that message would put wheels in motion, but it would take hours for any external help to materialize. They only had minutes. "The key card," Liam said, turning his focus back to the immediate threat. "It gives you access to the server room, the digital archive?" "Yes," Sarah confirmed. "Rourke told me the precise location. A secured server rack, behind a false panel in the third-floor server room of the Sterling building. The card bypasses the key code lock. But it has to be done tonight. Rourke said they were planning a full system wipe at dawn to destroy his files." Liam felt the weight of the ticking clock. The Sterling building, the heart of the financial district, would be secured like a fortress. Infiltration would be suicide. But waiting was worse. He pulled a tactical vest, a set of heavy-duty utility tools, and a military-grade first aid kit from a locked compartment behind the seat. He methodically checked the seals and the contents. He didn't have a rifle, but he had a suppressed Sig Sauer P226 pistol, clean, registered, and completely untraceable, hidden in a custom compartment in the floorboards. He loaded 2 magazines. His hands moved with the focused economy of a man preparing for deployment. "We need to move," Liam stated, clipping the pistol holster to his belt. "They'll check the abandoned vehicle logs next, then triangulate the last known position. This garage won't stay dark for long." Just as he spoke, a flash of light cut through the grime-caked window of the garage's rear entrance. It was brief, sharp, and focused. It was a searchlight, sweeping the perimeter. They had been found. Liam pushed Sarah low and drew his pistol. "Get down! Stay quiet!" he ordered. He moved silently toward the entrance, his mind calculating angles and choke points. The pursuers were efficient. They hadn't wasted time. They knew he was a professional, and they weren't sending in uniformed patrols. A dark figure appeared at the entrance, moving with a confident, deliberate step. Not the suits from before, but men in black tactical gear, private military, or perhaps corrupt special operations police working off books for Hayes. The figure held a suppressed submachine gun, sweeping the garage interior. Liam knew he had the advantage of surprise and superior cover. He took up a firing position behind a concrete pillar. He aimed not at the man's center mass, but at the light source. The powerful tactical flashlight mounted to the weapon. He fired once. The suppressed shot was a dull thwack, but the bullet struck the flashlight's lens, shattering it and plunging the immediate entrance into darkness. The figure recoiled, disoriented, shouting a command in a low voice. 2 more shadows poured into the entrance. "We're compromised," Liam whispered to Sarah, never taking his eyes off the entrance. "We're going to the Sterling building. We need the proof. You're my overwatch. Stay low, and if anything happens to me, you run. You take the evidence, and you deliver it. You understand?" Sarah nodded fiercely from the floor. She wasn't crying now. She was operational. She understood the cost. Liam needed a diversion. He looked up at the rusted fire escape ladder leading to the factory floor above. He couldn't fight 3 armed men and protect the exit. He had to draw them away. He reached into his kit and pulled out a small, remote-detonated smoke canister, designed for signaling, but perfect for creating confusion. He set the timer for 30 seconds, and rolled it under a nearby derelict vehicle. "When you hear the flash," Liam said, chambering around, "we move in the opposite direction. Get ready." He fired 3 rounds into the ceiling's rusted pipes, hitting water lines and creating a localized cascade of noise and spray. The mercenaries instantly shifted their focus and suppressed fire toward the noise. In the confusion, the smoke canister detonated, filling the garage with a cloud of thick, acrid smoke. Liam grabbed Sarah's arm, pulled her out from behind the truck, and they sprinted toward the far exit, into the dense, foggy cover of the riverfront district. Their escape was now a desperate race against the clock, fueled by betrayal, justice, and the knowledge that the man hunting them was someone Liam once considered family. The evidence was minutes away, but the distance felt infinite. Liam and Sarah arrived at the edge of the financial district as the first faint grey of pre-dawn light began to soften the sharp angles of the skyscrapers. It was 02:55. The sterile environment felt unnatural after the grime of the docks, clean, cold, and utterly unforgiving. The towering Sterling building, their target, was a sheer vertical wall of polished glass and steel. Liam felt the dull ache in his ribs with every breath, a constant reminder of the physical cost of his choice. They had exactly 65 minutes until the automated system wipe. "We cannot use the front," Liam stated, studying the building's exterior. "The lobby security is too automated, too layered. We need a service access point." They circled the perimeter, utilizing the cover provided by massive flower planters and delivery trucks parked near the curbs. They found the loading dock on the east side, a small breach in the fortress protected by a high fence. Liam analyzed the security setup, a high-definition camera sweeping a controlled arc, a single guard booth that was currently empty, and a magnetic gate lock. Liam quickly moved into the camera's blind spot, using the trauma shears from his kit and a section of rigid steel wire to meticulously cut and peel back the lower corner of the chain-link fence. The sound was minimal, lost beneath the persistent hum of the city's electric grid. He secured the gap with a piece of tape and gestured for Sarah to follow. They moved fast, low, and smooth. The service door, marked "Deliveries Only," required a complex mechanical override. Liam spent a full minute working the tumbler beside the electronic keypad. His hands, usually so steady, betrayed a slight tremor, not from fear, but from the physical exertion and the psychological burden of facing his mentor's betrayal. Click, clack. The mechanism yielded. They slipped inside the basement-level service corridor, where the air was thick with the scent of recycled air and cleaning agents. They ascended 9 flights of maintenance stairs. Liam moved with absolute noise discipline, his boots finding the corners of the steps. On the 3rd floor, the corridor changed instantly from concrete service tunnel to a secured access pathway leading to the massive server farm. This was the final boundary. The door to the network access, level 3, required Sarah's keycard. She took the card from Liam. Her face was pale, but her movements were precise. She slid the card. Click, hiss. The magnetic lock disengaged. They entered the server room. The noise was intense, the roar of cooling fans creating a perpetual deafening drone. Liam immediately scanned the rows of tall black racks, his P226 pistol held in the low-ready position. The room was a labyrinth of metal and blinking lights. Liam knew the noise would mask their steps, but it also masked the approach of an ambush. Sarah moved immediately to the designated server rack, the 3rd aisle from the left, past the environmental monitoring sensors. Liam remained vigilant, maintaining cover behind a heavy power distribution panel. Sarah unlocked the hidden access panel on Rourke's dedicated rack and connected Liam's specialized encrypted storage drive. On the small terminal screen, the harsh red text was impossible to ignore. System wipe protocol active. Execution in 38 minutes. Transfer initiated, Sarah called out over the fan noise, her voice tight with adrenaline. It's running a massive compression sequence first. It will take 16 minutes at this speed. 16 minutes, Liam confirmed, checking his watch. It was a lifetime in this environment. Then, the static-laden, familiar voice of command cut through the fan noise, booming from the central speaker array. 15 minutes, Liam. A lifetime is all you have left. It was Captain Hayes. His voice was cold, controlled, and smug. The key card was a beautiful piece of bait. It told me exactly where you would go, and precisely when. You should have known I wouldn't leave a loose end like this to chance. You're trying to save a traitor's legacy, Liam, and you're compromising a federal asset to do it. Liam felt the surge of operational anger. Hayes wasn't physically here, but his presence was absolute. "You won't get away with this, Arthur," Liam shouted back, knowing Hayes could hear him through the room's microphones. "I already have, son. The system wipe is redundant. My security team is inside, waiting for the asset to arrive. They've been waiting since I set this up 3 days ago. Check your 6, medic." As Hayes's voice faded, the sound of the main server room door being violently secured with heavy magnetic locks echoed through the room. They were trapped. 3 men in full black tactical gear, armed with silenced automatic weapons, entered the aisle from the far end, moving fast and low. They were not mercenaries. These were private security, trained to eliminate threats quickly and quietly. They immediately opened fire on Liam's position, bullets shredding the metal housing of the nearest server rack. Liam returned fire, aiming not at the men but at the light source, a cluster of overhead junction boxes. 2 controlled shots. The lights over the central aisles died in a shower of sparks and smoke. The mercenaries immediately stopped firing, losing their visual targets in the sudden gloom. The ensuing fight was short, silent, and brutal. Liam moved in the absolute darkness, using the noise of the fans and the heavy machinery as his guide. He engaged the first mercenary using CQC, slamming the man's head against the cold steel of the server rack, dropping him instantly. The second man retreated, firing wildly. Liam pinned him behind a console and used a rapid, precise joint lock, neutralizing the threat without lethal force. 10 minutes left, Sarah screamed, the terror audible in her voice. The transfer percentage crawled across the screen. 60%. Liam turned his focus to the remaining third mercenary. The man was smarter, using the shadows and the noise discipline. Liam stalked him down the aisle, his P226 pistol held steady. Just as he was about to engage, a deafening mechanical grinding sound tore through the room. A massive fire-rated blast door, previously hidden in the ceiling, dropped down on heavy hydraulic pistons between Liam's position and Sarah's rack. The movement was calculated, precise, and instantaneous. Clang! The door slammed into the concrete floor, physically and irrevocably separating Liam from Sarah and the mainframe. Liam lunged forward, hitting the blast door just as the final locking mechanism engaged, his shoulder hitting the cold, unyielding steel. He was trapped on one side of the fortress. Sarah, the data, and the running countdown were trapped on the other. "Liam!" Sarah screamed, her voice muffled by the thick steel door. "I'm locked in. It's accelerating. 7 minutes." Liam turned, his breathing ragged, the adrenaline fading into sharp pain in his ribs. The final hidden mercenary, the one who triggered the door, was standing 20 feet away, a high-powered tranquilizer rifle aimed steadily at Liam's chest. This man wasn't there to kill. He was there to subdue the threat and secure the mainframe room. The mercenary spoke, his voice calm and professional, no longer masked by the intercom. "It's over, soldier. Hayes wanted you alive. Drop the weapon." Liam looked at the massive steel door, then at the mercenary, then back at the door. He had failed the infiltration, but the fight wasn't over. Sarah was on the clock, isolated and now facing a terminal threat. The true climax, the fight for the data and the impossible escape, was about to begin. Liam stood isolated in the narrow corridor of the server room entrance, the massive steel blast door separating him from Sarah and the mission's objective. The muffled beeping of the system wipe countdown behind the steel barrier was a relentless, high-pitched irritant. The pain in Liam's fractured ribs was sharp and constant, a dull agony amplified by the adrenaline. His immediate problem was the remaining mercenary. The man, a professional tactical operator trained for apprehension, held the tranquilizer rifle steady. "Drop the weapon now," the mercenary repeated, his voice emotionless. "This doesn't have to get messy. Hayes just needs a debrief." Liam knew that debrief meant interrogation, and tranquilizing him meant silence. He could not afford to go down. Liam feigned exhaustion, letting his shoulders slump slightly, creating the illusion of defeat. "Hayes betrayed everyone," Liam murmured, shifting his weight slightly onto his left foot, away from his holster. The mercenary took the bait, relaxing his stance just enough. He took a slow, confident step forward, aiming for a quick, debilitating shot. Liam didn't wait for him to initiate. He slammed his left foot against the steel base of the server rack, creating a loud, echoing clang. In the same instant, he drew the P226 pistol and fired one shot, not at the mercenary, but at a cluster of thick, unused fiber optic cables dangling from the ceiling 2 feet above the guard's head. The suppressed round shredded the cable bundle. The cut wires instantly coiled and fell, striking the mercenary across the face and shoulders. He reflexively brought his hands up to shield his eyes. That was all Liam needed. Liam dropped the P226 and charged low, closing the distance in a full-speed trained sprint. He drove his shoulder into the mercenary's chest plate, pinning him against the concrete wall. Using his weight and forward momentum, Liam executed a perfect disarmament maneuver, a rapid twisting snap that dislocated the mercenary's elbow, forcing the rifle to clatter to the ground. The mercenary screamed, a muffled sound of pain and disbelief. Liam followed through with a targeted, non-lethal strike to the carotid artery, rendering the man unconscious in less than 3 seconds. He dragged the heavy body into the shadow of a damaged server rack, stripping the man of his tactical comms unit and utility belt. Liam secured the P226 and turned his full attention to the blast door. The door was reinforced steel, powered by industrial hydraulic pistons, locked by a complex multi-point security system. It was designed to withstand a massive explosion. Brute force was impossible. 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. Liam pulled his specialized breaching kit from his vest. He used a flexible endoscope camera to find the access panel for the hydraulic lines. The panel was secured by proprietary hex bolts. Liam selected a diamond-tipped drill bit and began the slow, agonizing process of breaching the hardened steel. The high-pitched whine of the drill against the metal was swallowed by the sudden re-emergence of the cooling fans. Hayes had rebooted the system from a remote terminal, increasing the ambient noise and the sense of overwhelming surveillance. 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Finally, the bolts were gone. Liam yanked the access plate free, exposing the thick, pressurized hydraulic lines and the copper wiring harness that powered the locking mechanism. He used his trauma shears to clip the wires powering the magnetic lock. No effect. The hydraulic pressure was too great. He had to relieve the pressure in the lines to manually retract the pistons. He used a small, specialized valve wrench to find the pressure release bolt on the main hydraulic manifold. He worked slowly, deliberately, fighting the immense physical resistance. Pfft! A high-pressure spray of hydraulic fluid hissed into the corridor. The door groaned, shuddering as the massive pistons slowly, reluctantly retracted. Liam jammed the heavy steel pry bar into the seam and used his full body weight, levering the door open just enough to create a 15-inch gap. The effort was immense, searing pain tearing through his side. He squeezed through the opening, landing hard on the floor of the main server room. He found Sarah exactly where he had left her, huddled over the terminal, her body rigid with terror. 55 seconds left. "Status!" Liam barked, running toward her. "Complete 100%, but the final purge sequence is starting," Sarah cried, holding the encrypted drive tight against her chest. "Look!" The terminal screen was flashing an aggressive red message. Final purge sequence commencing. Data integrity terminated. Liam looked at the screen. 30 seconds. The system wipe wasn't just deleting files. It was actively rewriting the memory sectors with meaningless data. A deep-level purge that would render the drive utterly useless. There was no time for a graceful shutdown. Liam threw his body against the massive server rack, using his flashlight to trace the main power bus. A thick bundle of high-voltage cables running from the floor. He drew his KA bar knife. 15 seconds. Hayes's voice crackled over the internal speaker system, triumphant and malicious. "Too slow, Liam. You were always too slow. I win. And now you have nothing." Liam ignored the voice. He found the heaviest power cable bundle. He gripped the handle of the knife with both hands, using every ounce of his strength and leverage. He drove the blade down, slicing through the thick insulation and the underlying copper wire. Crack, bang! A massive fireball of blue-white electrical discharge erupted from the severed cable, instantly vaporizing the copper. The power to the entire server stack, the central data hub for the entire building, died instantly. The room plunged into absolute darkness, illuminated only by the residual sparks fading into the ceiling. Liam stood panting over the ruined cable, the heavy scent of ozone and scorched metal filling the air. The silence was the answer. The system wipe was stopped mid-sentence. "Sarah, status," Liam demanded, his voice hoarse. "The screen is black," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. "The power failed completely. I think the drive is safe." "Good," Liam said, reaching out in the darkness and taking her hand. "We move. Now." They moved quickly through the dark, silent aisles, avoiding the damaged sections. The explosion had certainly triggered every secondary alarm and security protocol in the building. They couldn't use the stairs. They would be the first point of convergence for first responders and corporate security. Liam located the main HVAC, heating, ventilation and air conditioning, duct access near the rear of the server room. He used the pry bar to wrench open the heavy, latched access door. A cold draft of industrial air blasted out. "We're going up," Liam instructed. "Climb fast. Stay close." They squeezed into the massive metal duct, climbing upward into the tight, dirty confines of the ventilation system. The darkness here was absolute, forcing Liam to rely on the muffled, echoing sounds of the building's internal structure and his operational memory. They crawled on their bellies through the network of ducts, moving upward for what felt like an eternity, the scraped metal amplifying every breath and movement. They finally emerged onto the building's roof, a massive, silent expanse of tar and gravel under the full light of the rising sun. The city spread out below them, a beautiful, deceptive landscape of opportunity and corruption. Below, the sirens were gathering, local police, fire department, and likely federal agents converging on the Sterling building. They had minutes before the rooftop access was secured. Liam led Sarah toward the opposite side of the roof, where a neighboring, shorter building offered a potential escape route. He used a grapple hook and line from his utility vest, securing it to a rooftop antenna array. He didn't hesitate. He secured the line around Sarah's waist. "You go first," he instructed. "Fast and steady. No looking down." Sarah, driven by the urgency of the drive she protected, moved across the short gap between the buildings with professional grace. Liam followed, retrieved the line and quickly cut the tension cable on the antenna base to destroy the evidence of their escape. They made their way down the service stairs of the second building, finally emerging onto a bustling morning street. They were just two faces in the rapidly growing crowd of early commuters, anonymous and invisible. Liam led Sarah 3 blocks to the rendezvous point under the overpass. The DOJ agent was waiting, exactly as instructed. "Status report," the agent said, his eyes going immediately to Sarah. Sarah placed the drive into the agent's hand. Proof of treason, high-level corruption, murder and embezzlement. Hayes's entire operation. The agent's expression was grim but professional. "This changes everything. You did the right thing, Sarah." He then looked directly at Liam, his gaze lingering on the torn clothes and the fatigue lines etched around the soldier's eyes. "I know who you are, Liam. I know what you did in that building. I know you broke several dozen federal laws, but you secured the evidence my department couldn't touch." Liam met his gaze. "The innocent are safe. The evidence is yours. I'm done." The agent nodded slowly, a small, subtle acknowledgement of the Vigilante's moral authority. "This never happened. I never saw you. Go." Liam stepped back, turning his back on the official justice system. He watched Sarah get into the agent's car, the woman who started the night running in terror, now riding toward the safety of the law, a hero holding the key to a national scandal. Liam walked away from the light of the morning sun toward the shadows of the deserted side streets. His old life was gone, vaporized in the electrical discharge of the mainframe. His uniform of integrity was stripped away, replaced by the grim reality that justice sometimes required the application of violence outside the law. The narrator's voice returned for the final, weighty conclusion. He had fulfilled the mission. He had avenged the murdered journalist and protected the woman who possessed the courage to seek the truth. Liam never looked back. He knew that the system would pursue Arthur Hayes, but he also knew that the city was a vast, dark ecosystem of crime and corruption, that the system was too slow or too compromised to touch. He realized that the training he possessed was a tool the city desperately needed, wielded by hands unfettered by bureaucracy. Sarah's desperate courage had not just saved her brother's legacy, it had given Liam a new purpose, a new war, fought not for a flag or a command, but for the voiceless victims trapped in the city's dark corners. He was no longer just a medic. He was the quiet reckoning, the urban ghost, the necessary violence. The long night was over, but the watch had just begun.